We've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy. Jimmy Lakey. From coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice. Oh, let us all. Jimmy Lakey. Get out of bed. Jimmy Lakey. Raise your voice. Jimmy Lakey. Lakey. Hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the morning to you, everybody. Glad to have you here on the program. What color of shirt am I wearing today? I looked at the pre-show chat around there, and people already said, I hope Jimmy expanded his color palette. Ladies and gentlemen, my mug is blue. It's a shade of blue. It says Rivers Promise on it. And, of course, the Rivers Promise logo behind me. And my shirt, my friends, today is not blue. I have pulled out one of the gray shirts that I own, and you're welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, today is Gray Shirt Friday, and welcome to the program. There's the smart asses right there from the YouTube feed. Happy Friday. Let's see if Jimmy will expand his color palette to red ED, R-E-D, red ED, red, remembering everyone who served and remember those who died. Oh, I get it. Yeah, I'm not wearing red. I don't have any red shirts. I was never allowed to buy red shirts by my son. He said it was to be an embarrassment if I wore anything but other than blue. All right, good morning to you, everybody across America tuning in. As alerts are going off on all the social media feeds right now, say Lakey is unleashed. He's live, and people are joining us from all over. Glad to have you here on this morning. It looks like the Instagram feed might be working. We're not real sure if it's working, but sometimes it does work. So sometimes the Instagram works. We're very glad to have you all tuned in. All right, coming up on the program, we're going to, by the way, scrolling across the bottom of the screen are those folks that have helped us this week with a purchase of a desk and stocking of our new 5th grade classroom. And we just put the first name and last initial so you can see a lot of folks there that are participating in that. These are desk sponsors. Again, I started off the week asking for 30 people that would donate a one-time gift of $175 so that we can expand our Legacy Christian Academy and start our 5th grade. Every year we're adding a new classroom, and this year we need to start P5. If you have not participated, I am pleased to announce that we are over halfway there, right at about halfway, and had a couple of one-off gifts that don't quite amount to a desk, but we're going to round it up and get there. So I counted about just over halfway there. We need 30 people, or at least some people. Cody yesterday came in for several desks. We've had several people do a lot of desks, but we need some more people to participate with us. If you can go to riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com right now, donate $175 or a variation thereof. And our goal is to get 30 desks. That's the desk, the chairs, and not just the desk and the chairs, but it is it also stocks the classroom and all the supplies that are needed for the kids. And again, these are kids who would never go to school, not have access to school, so they can't go down to the local Walgreens, which there isn't one, and buy their supplies. We provide all that. And to start off that classroom with markers and all the things that a classroom has to have to operate with 30 kids and a teacher. So help us out all across the bottom of the screen. If you see your name, that means we pay attention to you. And again, we would have put first and last name, but we were limited on space. We paid for the minimal package of this stream, and we didn't pay for the expanded package. And we would have paid more. We would have probably been able to get more letters across there. But thank you to our desk sponsors. Cody P. Oliver, thank you very much. Lisa, Roger, and Sherry, thank you. Tina L., Skylar C., Rachel C., Stacy P. There's our friend Arloa, Dennis P., Chad and Jamie, also that's our producer, and Jimmy Hill. I think that's me. But anyway, we gotta keep those gifts coming. It's Friday. Some of you get paid on Fridays, and don't forget the work of the Lord that we're doing in Rivers Promise in Rwanda. All right, let's do that. Let's dive into some news of the day. Got a couple of guests going to be on the program today. Remember my friend Jeff Hayes used to be the chairperson of the Colorado GOP. For many years, he was on the radio with me. Well, Jeff is going to be with me today. In just a few minutes, he's going to be checking in for the great state of Texas, the motherland, the Lone Star State, where he fled in exile after Colorado went bat-crap crazy. And like many people, he's an expat. He moved back to Texas, and he lives near Lake Travis. So he's kind of downstream from all the floods that happened over a week ago in Kerrville and the Hill Country. So Jeff Hayes is going to check in. He had a couple of stories that I told you about of family members that were actually in harm's way at summer camps in that hill country area. He'll tell his story. And the filling of Lake Travis, I'm understanding, is really filling back up here real soon, real quick, as the water all heads downstream. And we'll check in with Jeff here in just a moment. Also, don't forget, Friday's the day that Doug Giles joins us on the show. And Doug's always a great guest, and we look forward to his joining us. We think he's going to join us. He has not given us his daytime confirmation. He usually does thumbs up or thumbs down as to whether his schedule allows it. All right, good to have you here on the program. Stephen Colbert got canceled. First of all, is anybody like me? You're like, I didn't even know I didn't know Colbert got canned because I didn't know he was still had a job. I haven't watched late night television in America on the primetime networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, in a long, long time. Now, I do record Gutfeld every night. I have grown to appreciate Gutfeld, and at first, I kind of sophomoric, but I think the show's gotten more polished, and I've gotten a little bit more used to it. And it's funny. I think it's a fun show. But Gutfeld had over 1 million viewers more than Colbert. Colbert really was at the bottom of the bottom. And I heard yesterday that Colbert also, the staff for that show was about 300 people. And so CBS is trying to sell itself and be bought up by some bigger company, CBS, Paramount, I believe. And there's a whole big mix of the deal. And they need the government to sign off on this thing, but they also needed to make budgetary sense. And a lot of these networks, more and more, are stopping right about 10 o'clock Eastern time. 10 o'clock Mountain Time, midnight. They're not doing live programming. It used to be in the day that you really put some thought into your overnight programming, but network television is not putting any thought into their network television. Even Fox, who is a top-rated when it comes to news, they do go into a couple of reruns during the later prime time, and then they kick off at about 3, 4 in the morning with live programming from the East Coast. But you have to watch your budget in the overnights because of fewer eyeballs, and the ad rates are less, and so it's a difficult thing. But Colbert was making a lot of money, and they said that Colbert's last show will be next spring. So he wasn't immediately canceled. Basically, they said, we're going to get rid of the show, and it's going to go bye-bye. And it's going to go history, and bye-bye. We're going to be out of here, and we'll play some rerun of some show, I guess. And Colbert says he's going to retire. So Colbert is out at CBS. Has anybody watched the Colbert shows lately? Every time I even see excerpts, and I think they get more eyeballs because conservative media wants to play. Like, no one watches The View. I mean, there's nobody watches The View except a bunch of unshaven, unkempt women that are angry with their husband and probably ready to file for divorce for the 14th time. They're just bitter old hags that watch The View. The View wouldn't get any eyeballs or any ear holes if it were not for conservative media playing audio from The View, which is why I try to do it. Colbert is out at CBS because Colbert was not funny. Now, was Colbert ever funny in his time? I don't know. Never followed his early career. But he became a man, from what I can gather reading, that he became a man obsessed by this color orange. He came down with a case of Trump derangement syndrome. And I think that Trump derangement syndrome is sending him off to pasture, not with the grandiose adios that maybe he gave a Johnny Carson or a David Letterman, but he's going to get he's going to be shown the curb. He's just going to go retire. Run along there, Stephen. Anyway, Colbert's out at CBS, and if there's anybody that has watched Colbert, feel free to let me know. I was watching one of his recent shows within the last 6 or 7 months, just as watching the news story. They had an excerpt, and right after, remember James Comey put the seashells on the seashore out there, 86-47. Colbert couldn't wait to get old James Comey on the show and talk to him about his seashells by the seashore. So, Mr. Colbert, you're an idiot. You have been affected by Trump derangement syndrome, and it has cost you what could have been and possibly could have been an illustrious career that you probably could have had that show for a long time more had you wanted to, but you chose not to because you could not stand Donald J. Trump, and you just have the Trump derangement syndrome. And I think there's going to be a lot more people like that in their careers, whether it's in the media or just in life, they end up crashing out because Donald Trump has driven them absolutely batcrap crazy. I mean, there's just people that would choose to in their careers and relationship because of their vitriol for Donald J. Trump. There are people that are motivated by hate. There are people motivated by anger. There are people that are motivated by things that are just not pure and not holy, and they hate Trump so much that they would cost everything. I could tell you stories back in the days before I was unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, of literally times that I would not go in the building because some bat crap crazy libtards were in there, and I felt were a threat to community, a threat to humanity, a threat to me. I won't give the details of the story, but I will say that there was a time that I lived in exile in my own little home because because of messages I received from an employee that just was really willing to blow up his entire career and any credibility because of his hatred and vitriol for Donald J. Trump. So anyway, we'll talk about that. Stephen Colbert. Anybody still watch the show? I didn't even know it existed, but I guess it still does. What else do we have here? Oh, I got a question for you. This is a question of the day on the program. You ready for this? If you're like me, you're an old guy and you like watching television. I don't have a lot of time to watch television. But I do watch some TV every once in a while, and I usually somehow I always end up on a news highlight because I record everything, so I don't watch all the shows reel to reel. I just fast forward to interviews, and then sometimes I just did season 5, or I've caught up on The Chosen finally, which I love that series. I did The Crown. I binge watched The Crown. I don't have these go-to shows on a day-to-day basis. I've got friends. Have you seen this show on Netflix? I'm like, when the hell do you have time to watch all this crap? I just don't have time. But I guess maybe I should take more time. Well, I do sometimes enjoy an old television show. And all of us remember, and I don't know, because I don't watch modern shows, I don't remember or know if there's any great modern shows that have a great opening. One that comes to mind during my college years, my college years, was Friends. Anybody remember the Friends song? Was that we were discussing this at the Rembrandts, I think? That's a legendary song. Everybody remembers the Friends song. You can sing along. I remember. I'm old enough that I can remember the whistle theme of. That's the Andy Griffith Show, right? Remember that theme song? Anybody remember the Jeffersons theme song? We're moving on up to the top to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Well, throughout time and throughout our lifetimes, there have been great television shows that you like the show, but when the theme song comes on, you're not skipping it. You don't skip the theme song to the Jeffersons. I would have to say, if you skip the Jeffersons theme song, you're probably also most likely to skip the Jimmy Lakey Mass Choir theme song at the beginning of the show, and that makes you almost un-American. So throwing that out there, I got a question for you. What are the theme songs of television shows that you would never skip? You never fast forward. You're going to watch the theme song. And I have a list here that has been compiled by some online surveys. And I have to say, I must be getting old because I don't know a lot of the top songs on here. Law and Order, I do know that. That's number 4 on the list overall. So, that light jazz, a little slap of the bass. That's a nice, the Law and Order one. Golden Girls makes the list. Friends is not on this list. Friends is not on this list because he's probably were not Americans and they did. Cheers is another one that has made the list. What are some shows that you would never miss the theme song on? That if it plays, you're going to sing it in your head. You're going to catch yourself going down the road singing it. What are some songs? Anybody remember the theme song for Twin Peaks? I remember the show. I think that was my high school years or college years. I don't remember, but I never watched it. I think it was like an adult soap opera. I don't know. Twin Peaks. I don't know. That's on the show. The Simpsons has made the list. There's a lot. It's a very eclectic list. Producer Chad and I were going over this in our pre-show meeting and kind of thought that perhaps everybody has made the list because they surveyed a bunch of youngsters out there, a bunch of hipsters, a bunch of, young shavers. I don't know. But anyway, give us your theme song that you just can't live without. The Brady Bunch. See, that's the one to me. Gilligan's Island. Jeff's thinking the same way. Gilligan's Island was one that, how did that not make the list? How did the Jeffersons not make the list? I would present to you, my friends, therefore, brethren and sistren, that the generation that I grew up in, and I'm a Gen Xer and I own it to the best of my ability, we had the best theme songs in television. I'm looking at some of the songs on this list now that I'm sure, I don't even know the songs, but I'm guessing they suck. For instance, let me give you an example. The top one on this list is a show, and I could ask my son. I don't even think my son would know this one. Avatar: The Last Airbender. The theme song for Doctor Who. The theme song from Phineas and Ferb. Now, I do know, and this should be on the list too, the theme song from SpongeBob SquarePants. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob. I love that. I know that one. My son grew up watching a little SpongeBob SquarePants on occasion. Anyway, best theme songs, I think, came from our generation or my generation as a Gen Xer. And somebody put up the Dukes of Hazzard. Producer Chad and I both also talked about this on the show, that the Dukes of Hazzard, how do you cut out Dukes of Hazzard? If you're going to go great theme songs on American television shows, you have to have the Dukes of Hazzard. That's Waylon Jennings. All right, it doesn't get any better and more American than Waylon Jennings. You got to have that. If you're going to have Waylon Jennings versus the Rembrandts, you're going to take Waylon every time. So there you go. Everybody, chat among yourselves. Help us out and let us know. And let us all know what your theme song is that you absolutely cannot skip. The Brady Bunch is a great one as well. And again, I would just present to you that I don't think the shows today, are there any modern shows out there? Anybody watch any regular shows that have great theme songs? You know who did have a great theme song? I'll throw this out there. Is if you watch the I guess mini trilogy or the 5th season, I think I'm going to do one more season next year. The Chosen. They always had some great music, and I always skip the intro because I'm watching it back to back. But yeah, feel free. Shyla jumps in and says Hawaii 5-0. Hawaii 5-0 made the list. It made the list. MASH couldn't sing it, but probably wouldn't because the title is "Suicide is Painless," but it's great music. Is that the title to the MASH? The MASH? Yeah, my MASH was more my dad's generation. That was what the old guys watched, even for me. That was the name of the song, Suicide is Painless. Yeah, I couldn't sing it either. Anyway, great theme songs. I'm telling you, those of us who grew up in the, let's say, 80s and 90s and really cut our teeth and became men and women, you have to say that that we had the best theme songs on television in television history. I just saw someone put Leave It to Beaver. I agree. I'm an avid Leave It to Beaver collector. And I'm following a group now in which Jerry Mathers is in, and he oftentimes announces his appearance. Do not be surprised, my friends, if you see me one day going, I got to go meet Jerry Mathers, and I'm going to go meet him. He's oftentimes doing comic shows or things in L.A., and I follow a group that he's in, and I'm going to one day go out to one of these events, and I'm going to get a photo of Leave It to Beaver. If you've been in the House of Lakey, it's not as bad now, but I used to have an entire area that was dedicated to Leave It to Beaver collectibles. I am not lying. I have one of those old metal lunch boxes, right? The old metal lunch pails. They're valuable now. I have a lunch pail. It was never meant to be a lunch pail. Inside, I guess are not usable now, are the entire lifespan of the collection, every season, every episode, outtakes of Leave It to Beaver. What are they called? DVDs? Is that what we used to play? Thanks, Delilah. You're no help. Wake up. Yeah, I've got that. I still have on the Wall of Fame in the cigar room at the House of Lakey. I still have, we call it Studio B. I still have one poster up there that I bought as a kid of Leave It to Beaver. Beaver talking to his dad Ward and say, "Gee, Dad, it's hard to walk good when your underwear's on backwards." Yeah, that was a line in the show. Anyway, good to have all of you here. Favorite television theme songs that you would never skip? Feel free to jump into that. All right, what else do we have? We have the Stephen Colbert is out at CBS. Adios, Stephen. Don't let the door hit you. And I honestly have to say I didn't even know Stephen was still on, so I don't think it's probably going to matter to most people out there. Also, a rescission bill passed over the weekend. Overnight, and we'll talk about that. It got through the House, and so there's PBS and NPR going to have a little bit of funding cut going on. And what else? There's other things in this rescission bill. They made some of the USAID cuts permanent. That's good. More rescission bills are coming. And then this happened. Then I'm going to go to my guest here. We've been talking about the Epstein files, and they just won't quit, right? And we could tell that Donald J. Trump, DJ, was very upset, and he was saying that people were falling into a Democrat hoax. And, I appreciated his thoughts and things, but there had been a lot of talk about the Epstein files for a long time. Pam Bondi actually said she had them on her desk. Then she retracted. Well, I had a file, but I didn't know it's that file. And then remember, she had that dog and pony show. She brought a bunch of influencers up to the White House, and they all walked out with these binders, these trapper keeper things, and they supposedly had the Epstein files, and we never heard from them again. So they did a lot of dog and pony show to make you think that they were on top of this Epstein file thing. And then all of a sudden, poof, memo comes, nothing to see here. Epstein killed himself, and there is no file. We lied to you. And nobody signed the memo. Well, overnight, while you were sleeping, probably it came out about, I think about 1 o'clock in the morning. I think it's about 1 a.m. on Eastern time, if I'm looking at the timestamp prep. But this is what Donald J. Trump put up there last night on the Truth Social. Based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam perpetrated by the Democrats should end right now. So Trump was, I know he didn't like it, but he was getting a lot of kickback from even prominent conservatives and then little peon conservatives like you and I saying, come on, you campaigned on this. There's nothing that we can't handle. If there's a name of a victim, redact the name of the victim. But Jeffrey Epstein might have hung himself, but this story's not going to hang itself. It's going to continue to perpetuate, and you campaigned on it. And it's not us who made it a deal. You made it a deal. And so put it out there. We know that Giselle Maxwell, whatever her name is, Ghislaine Maxwell, whatever her name is. She trafficked to someone. We know that Prince Andrew's persona non grata at the royal family because of he was inbound on the trafficking, and Giselle was sending him outbound. Andrew was evidently taking him inbound. We know that there were charges of all sorts of and allegations. So at least tell us who was on the inbound, who was Giselle and Jeffrey planning to send to. So there's the tweet that went out, or the truth is what we call it, that went out based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein. Produce any and all pertinent grand jury files. And this was the response from Pam Bondi right there. Mr. President Trump, we are ready to move the court to tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcripts. So again, you probably didn't even know, and I didn't know, we weren't aware that there had to be a court approval of this. So a lot of this has been Dog and Pony Show brought on to you by Pam Bondi, and they played into this hype, and they're having to deal with it, and I think they're doing the right thing. Release the Kraken. Yeah, the last person that said that got in trouble after January the 6th, so let's not worry about releasing any Krakens here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, waiting patiently in the green room for my pontification to stop, it's Mr. Jeff Hayes, former chairperson of the Colorado GOP. Jeff Hayes, is that you? Hello, sir. Hello, Jeff. Hello. I see Jeff's connected. Jeff, we don't hear you. I don't know. We don't hear. Anybody hear Jeff Hayes? All right, let's take him off the stage, see if we can get a connection with Jeff Hayes. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Jeff is waiting there in silence. Let's try. Jeff Hayes used to be the chairperson of the Colorado GOP for years, was on my show, moved off to the state of Texas, and lives there now near the Austin area. Jeff, do I have you now? I'm not exactly sure why we don't have Jeff. It says, it says his mic is working. I don't know. Jeff Hayes waiting by. We'll check in with Jeff here in just a moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, while we try to resolve the problem with Jeff Hayes, could you, if you would, direct your attention to the television screen? And I was talking about those people that have given desk, that helped us with the $175 desk. All the desk sponsors scrolling across the bottom of the screen. We still need more of you. I wanted to show you inside one of the classrooms. We're going to try to connect again with Jeff Hayes. I wanted to show you inside the classroom. And let me just send Jeff a message here. Sorry, this is live television here. Let's try again. All right, this is inside one of the classrooms. This is not the 5th grade classroom, but this is what it will look like. These are the desks. These are the kids. I had walked in there just a month ago, and they were singing. They always sing and greet you. You see their teacher. Their teachers always wear lab coats, if you will. I guess that's what that's called. And you can see these are kids just greeting us, and these are the types of desks. And you'll see the papers hanging on the wall, typical classroom stuff that they do there. We teach English at the school. They're actually speaking English in the video. It's have a heavy accent. It's hard to hear with the audio. But let me show you. This is what the classroom, these are the desks. This is what our classroom will look like. The 5th grade is what we're doing. This is what you're contributing to. Go ahead. I forgot the words. It's about 2nd grade, I think. That's the 2nd grade classroom. You see all the posters and stuff. That's what we're doing. We got to be in that classroom. So when you gave a desk, that is what that classroom literally will look like. And we appreciate all of you that participate. Again, Jeff says I'm connected, says it's on, and I can hear you. Do you have me unmuted? Yes, you are unmuted, Jeff. Let's try to bring Jeff Hayes back in here. And we cannot hear Jeff Hayes. Jeff Hayes, do we have you this time?
I don't know. Can you hear me, Jimmy?
Oh, there you are, sir. We have you now.
Yay! Miracles
Welcome
of
in.
modern technology.
I'm telling you, welcome in. It's we're glad to have you, Jeff Hayes. Reminding everybody on the new platforms, thousands of ear holes listen to this show every day, from live to post production, podcasting. And some people may not be familiar with you, but for years you were on the radio show with me, and you were the former chairperson of the Colorado GOP. And then you got smart and live in exile now in the great state of Texas, back in the motherland, sir. How the hell are you?
Jimmy, I'm doing great, and I'm feeling very grateful and sad. We've had a lot of trauma down here in Central Texas. We were fortunate that we did not lose any family members, but we dodged a few bullets in the Hayes family. My brother's grandchildren, Camp Mystic, the week before the floods hit, they just got home, or got home the week before. And my niece, my sister's daughter, was a camp counselor at another camp who lost their longtime owner and camp director. And my niece just happened to be in between sessions, and she was staying with some friends. And so her second floor apartment got flooded up to the top of the ceiling, and her office was totally wiped out. So again, we just feel, it's a strange mixture when you're in that situation. You feel relief and exhilaration, but you also feel such deep sadness and a bit of a survivor's guilt. And it's horrible. And, the people of Colorado, they've had flash floods. I remember, what was it, about a decade ago, that they had a real severe one up near Estes Park. Yep. And so people who live through there, they understand that, that massive hydraulic power of water. But I know a lot of your listeners have seen the video clips of the Guadalupe going from, 0 to 30 feet high in 30 minutes. It's incredible. So I'll tell you what, though, Jimmy, and I wouldn't be surprised if the people of Colorado responded this way if they had a statewide tragedy, but it's amazing how the people of Texas have responded. The generosity and the support, and yes, the prayers and the thoughts and all that, but just the volunteers, they have to turn away volunteers. They've gotten so much financial relief, and it's a bit overwhelming, and it makes me grateful to live where I live.
Jeff, I want to talk about where you live, because you're near Lake Travis, so you're seeing that lake fill up. I'll talk about kind of with the before and after. But I was in Texas last week checking in on my mother, and she was in the hospital, so I was down there, and I was even in Dallas, Fort Worth, the radio stations, everything I flipped to, special concert, special benefit, dial this number. It sounds like even though the rest of America might have kind of forgotten, those floods down in Texas that captivated us for a few days, it still seems to be center attention in Texas. I can imagine down where you live in that same kind of general area near the Hill Country, near Austin. Are you still seeing, are they still in the recovery? Have they found everyone? Are they still doing research and rescue recovery? What's happening on a day-to-day basis, besides some people trying to rebuild, but obviously some people are still missing?
Jimmy, I think they're transition to recovery. I don't think there's much hope of finding survivors anymore. It's really gruesome. The force, not only of the water, but all the debris and just the massive structures that are flowing. Millions of gallons per second flowing through these rivers. It's almost incomprehensible to understand the power of all that. And I don't know, I've been in flood recoveries before, and it's just a horrendous mess. The mud, the muck, and I saw a picture the other day of a pickup truck that was totally buried in rubble. And so, it's gruesome to think about, but there are people that are in the same situation that probably will never be found. And that compounds the tragedy for the families to not have that closure. It's amazing that there are going to be close to 300 people that died in this thing. Wow. And that's more than Hurricane Ike. We lived in Texas during Hurricane Ike back in 2009, I think, or 8 it was. And, it blew right over our house. We had the fortune of having a place in Austin to evacuate to, but wow. The economic damage might have been greater because it affected Houston, but the human tragedy was about a third of what it is now. And so it's like I said, it's almost incomprehensible.
So you live in the Austin area near Lake Travis. For those people that aren't from Texas, give us kind of the lay of the land. If you're looking at Texas, you go south of Dallas, kind of south central Texas. You'll see Austin kind of right in the middle. That's the state capital. San Antonio is about an hour and a half from there, out towards the hill country, out further a little bit northeast. Where is Lake Travis in relation to Austin, and where is the Lake Travis area where you live in relation to Kerrville and these other places?
So Jimmy, I'm almost right dead in the middle, maybe a little bit south. I've said that we live deep in the heart of Texas, but like at the base of the left ventricle. And so Kerrville, where all this damage occurred, is about an hour west-southwest of us. Okay, it takes me about an hour to get to the VA hospital down here in Kerrville. And so the nature of this terrain, it's the hill country, and so it's highly eroded limestone. You've got valleys and rolling terrain. It's not as dramatic, obviously, as the Front Range or places in Colorado, but there's pretty good elevation differences. And the nature of it, there's about most places on average about 6 inches of topsoil, and then you hit limestone. And so the rain comes in and goes down and horizontal. And so these rivers, they're more like when you see the Arkansas River, for example, in Colorado, where it's really rock lined and gravel lined, except these sometimes are base limestone. So there's no permeability, there's no absorption. So they go from zero to flood stage very, very rapidly. And that's why people have started talking about this place being flash flood alley. And I had never heard it called that, but it's a very apt discussion or a term. So the other thing that compounds it, Jimmy, is that we've had, like in my area, we have had a 6-year historic drought, worse than anything on modern record. We are a full year's rainfall below where we should have been. So over the span of 6 years, we're a year's under, and that's pretty much the same way with this entire region. And so you've had a lot of cover vegetation, the grasses and things like that. A lot of things have died because it's been so dry. And so, you hit this really dry, almost bare compacted ground with 15 inches of water. And so here's something historical that only you would be interested in. You've got the Brazos River and the Colorado River in Texas. And there's some thought that those rivers were switched because the Brazos River, and I grew up on the Brazos, it's a big, slow, muddy river. And it's kind of red because it gets a lot of its sediment from, up in the northern part of Texas. The Colorado River is actually, clear and it's highly controlled now, but it was really floody. And that's where all these rivers flow into. And you're talking about Lake Travis. Lake Travis is in the Colorado River chain, and there's a series of dams that impound the Colorado River. They do flood control and recreation and water and all that. But it really was flood control because this thing was nuts. And so the story is the name of the river is Brazos de Dios, the arms of God is what that means. That some early Spanish friars and religious folks were fleeing ahead of Indians that were chasing them. And they crossed this river and a flash flood came and prevented the Indians from wiping them out. And they called that the Brazos de Dios. But I think the map was flipped. And so this river, it's not modern, it's not caused by climate change or anything like that. This thing has been floody since time immemorial. In fact, it's one of the floodiest river systems in the entire country. So, there's a lot of experts that get on the internet and they talk about what should have been done. And, the flooding is a known issue. There's a certain probability that something like this is going to happen every so often. My family was actually involved in the '87 flood in Hunt. They were staying out there and they had to evacuate, wading through hip-deep water to get away from it. So it's kind of a family theme, I guess. But
it's not. So avoid this. You might want to avoid the rain. When the rain comes, I want the Hayes family out of there. From now on, you're gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's risk management. And that's what I do professionally. And so I get kind of wonky about this stuff. But if there's a known risk, then there's things you can do. You can either accept it or ignore it. But if you're going to do that, you better have some contingency plans, evacuation, and And if you can't control the innate risk of rainfall and flooding, then the state probably should have had been more aggressive, I think, in having warning, because the cell phone coverage is really spotty out there too. I mean,
Yeah.
I lose cell coverage on my road, and we only have moderate terrain. So I hope that they will do a very clear-eyed mishap investigation, essentially, multi-pronged, and come up with some solutions, because people are going to be blamed. They're going to be defensive. There's going to be, a cover your ass kind of stuff that's going to happen. That's inevitable. But I hope they'll do kind of like NASA did after the, shuttle disaster, the first one back in the 80s. They had a really clear-eyed view and said, we got some systemic problems and we need to fix it. Yep. And they did a pretty good job in fixing it. There was a complex vehicle and you had another crash. But hopefully our state will spend the money that they have, because they do have a lot of money. And
now the good news is Lake Travis was very, very low. I'd seen some photos of it, and that's kind of in your neck of the woods, and it's starting to fill up. There's the good news. The reservoir is starting to fill back up.
Absolutely. And so if you could take away the human tragedy aspect of it, yeah, it's restorative. I think Lake Travis is up just a little bit under 20 feet or so. And Canyon Lake is the one that's similar. It's up about 15 or 20 feet. Medina didn't get much. But these lakes, like, I think Lake Travis was down to maybe 40% of capacity. Wow. And even with this massive amount of water, it's up to maybe 75%. I'm just throwing out numbers. So
it's getting there.
It's been really, really dry, but yeah, there's a lot of people that are glad to have that. But anyway, I just, I appreciate, I know that people in Colorado have connections in Texas, and I know that they've been praying and they've been generous in financial support, and I hope that continues, because, now a lot more hard work. I mean, the amount of debris and rubble and stuff that has to be cleared out, again, is incomprehensible. But we were just in Colorado last week. And I just, appreciate where you live. Colorado is just beautiful. It's such a wonderful state full of wonderful people. I wish it would run better.
I was going to say, I have a lot of people that say, man, I love where you live. It's beautiful there. And nobody ever says, man, you could move here. We're all like, yeah, you don't want to move here. We're all if you tell people in Texas, man, people in Texas always invite me to move there. I don't know anybody in Colorado inviting somebody from Texas. Say, yeah, to move on up here, Jeff, move back. We all know better. It's probably better to escape the tyranny of Jared Polis and the radical Dems. By the way, Jeff, of all the years you and I've done media together, radio for many years, a regular guest on my show, even before you were the esteemed Colorado GOP chairperson, you used to come on the show, and every conversation you managed to hand it into weave it into a federalism conversation. And today, I think we've stumped you. You have no tie to federalism here, sir.
Oh no, I don't think you're correct, Jimmy.
You take that as a dare.
No, so I've got a fairly rigid governmental paradigm. To me, the national government only has a legitimate authority over things that are international or interstate, between the states. The state, interstate or inter-county. The counties, interpersonal. And so, because this is a multi-county issue, these rivers, they transit counties. You can't expect Kerr County to, be not only responsible for the disaster, but also responsible for mitigation strategies. It's an inter-county thing, and so I think the state legislature and the state government has to shoulder some of the responsibility for the lack of systems in place. And I know it's very complicated. It's not a one sentence, but it is a bit of a federalism issue. I don't think the national government really has a role in this. I think FEMA and Trump have been very supportive down here, but some of your listeners probably remember reading about Calvin Coolidge. They had some intrastate disaster somewhere, and he didn't want the national government getting involved. He didn't think it was a government role when something was within a particular state. And you can make that argument today. But anyway, so.
Ladies,
when you and I were chatting, I didn't think I could make it a 17th Amendment, but you broadened the federalism. So, I'm still undefeated.
If there's anybody that can turn any conversation, you could be talking about your bunions, and Jeff Hayes is going to turn that into a federalism discussion. You know what the 17th Amendment says about bunions? Nothing. And because of that, the government ought to stay off your bunions. I mean, everything You could be talking about whatever, and Jeff Hayes can turn it.
But we could take it to an Obamacare conversation, which then takes you to federalism. So
See,
I'm all over
there's they gave 2 to 3 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon, or 6 degrees of separation. You're always 1 degree of separation from the 17th Amendment. We got to do that. We got to have you back on and play Stump Jeff Hayes, and we can all bring up just random topics and see how you swerve that back into the 17th Amendment, sir.
That would be easy.
Jeff, I'm glad your family survived against 87 to 2025. That's a lot of water. I was in Texas in 87. I was in high school, and I was at a summer camp at the time. That group from Seagoville, Texas, also high schoolers like myself, got washed away in a school bus. So I remember that quite vividly when that happened, going, wow, good thing our summer camp wasn't in that area. It was just the things like they were doing the exact same thing I'm doing, and they're getting washed down a river. That's not a good thing. So our thoughts and prayers. I know the national media has not covered it as much. They've gone on to other things, but we're still praying for the people of Texas. I was down there last week, and as you said, nobody does it like Texas. Every media station out there was giving heartfelt pleas, and it wasn't just canned stuff that came from national. It was a local heartfelt stories, and appreciate you hopping on the program and talking to us, sir.
Always an honor, man. God bless Colorado.
We need it all. We need all the blessing we can get at this point. Jeff Hayes, former chairperson of the Colorado GOP, on the program, and glad to have him jump in here today. All right, good to have you here on the program. We have a question of the day going on, and that question of the day is this. What is a television theme song that you would never, ever miss? You never want to miss that theme song. I said the Jeffersons, Gilligan's Island, the Dukes of Hazzard, Brady Bunch, all these things have been talked about. The youngsters, though, have different things. I was bringing up songs that I could remember of shows my son would watch growing up, and I remember one called Yo Gabba Gabba. That was a fun one. I liked Yo Gabba Gabba. Caillou was a whiny little biatch kid. He was whiny, but he had a theme song. I remember that. Oh, Jeff says Fat Albert. I can hear it, but I couldn't sing it. I mean, I can kind of hear it playing in my head. TV theme songs you would never skip. The best TV theme songs of all kind. And I'm telling you, I'm thinking the best ones came from the 70s and 80s and then the early 90s. Anybody remember Saved by the Bell, the original? Yes, that was a great theme song as well. So theme songs that you would never miss out on, and you could sing along, and you knew. The Love Boat, that's not on anyone's list, I don't think. I don't think the Love Boat. That's not, I mean, it was catchy, but it's not one you want to have. Now you're going to have it stuck in your head, and you're going to curse at me all day. I'm sorry about that. Lisa says, my son, this is in the chat room from the X, my son Jordan just donated to help fund a desk. Hopefully we get this knocked out by the weekend. Yes, I just checked that out. Delilah just sent it over to me. Jordan Jones just stepped in, and that's Lisa's son. Jordan Jones, thank you. Just bought a desk for our Rivers Promise Legacy Christian Academy. We're above halfway to our goal of 30. If you could help us out, get there, feel free. Whether you can do one desk, a whole desk, a half desk, a small amount, maybe even if you just do multiple desks. Cody has done multiple desks. Lisa's has done multiple desks. Several people have. Stacy has, I believe, done. There's several people that have done multiple desks, and I say thank you for that. And if you, whether it's one, whether it's a half or whatever, we want to get there. 30 desks, 30 people donating 175 gets us there. Lisa, we saw that, and Delilah just sent me the note. Jordan Jones, that must be your son. Jordan just donated here during the program, so we appreciate it. You can donate now. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. Just go. You'll just donate the amount. Some people were messaging yesterday saying, I donated in the name of Legacy Christian. That's fine. When these donations come in, this is the only ask we have on the table right now. So money that comes in right now with the, you can even write desk in a comment. There is that, but because some of you have found a way to do that, but we're going to figure it out. We have sorted it out properly, and we want your help. 30 people at 175. Jordan Jones is our latest. Glad to have scrolling across the screen. Rachel C, Stacy P, Arloa A, Dennis P, Chad and Jamie. Jimmy, that's me. I don't need to see my name. I'm going to do another desk or two myself, but I want to get everybody involved that we can. Thank you to our desk sponsors. Cody P, he did multiple desks. Oliver, thank you, Oliver, Lisa, Roger, and Sherry, Tina, Skylar, you get the idea. And now Jordan Jones on the list, riverspromise.org. Let me show you one more time if you're just joining us. This is what the desk in the classroom looks like. This was actually me in the classroom. I walked in, they all stand up, and they sing little songs like kids do, hand motions, and they were talking about animals. And the audio is not clear, but they are speaking in English. But I just want you to see what the inside of a Finnish classroom looks like. And this is on our campus at Legacy Christian Academy. They're singing little songs to me. I forgot. I know the words. I go there, I sing with them all the time. But that 175 builds those are handmade desks, handmade chairs at every desk. All the classroom supplies. Again, now if you send your kid off to school right now, you know that they're going to give you a whole list of things you got to bring for the classroom, and parents volunteer. All the stuff that the people do to to get a classroom ready. It takes participation. Well, these are kids that would not even have clothes to wear to school had it not been for us. Those kids right there. I said this yesterday. By the time they're in fifth grade, if their girl's not in school, they're headed to a very hard and difficult life. And I can't tell you, it's broken my heart too many times that I read letters that a child will write to their sponsor, especially a young lady. They will write to their sponsor, say, thank you for sponsoring me. And they're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. And guess what they say? 14, 15, they'll say, thank you. Because of you, I don't have to be a prostitute. Can you imagine being a 14-year-old girl realizing that if somebody wasn't sending you to school? Can you imagine being a 16-year-old young lady realizing that if somebody wasn't sending you to school through a generous sponsorship of $65 a month, that your alternative life would either be starvation or prostitution? That is what these kids are facing. Those kids right there, I won't play the audio, but those kids right there, those little girls and boys, those little girls there in a couple of years will have the realization that if it weren't for being in that classroom right there, their life alternative would be prostitution and or starvation. That is what happens there. So when you give this desk today, you are helping to keep somebody on the pathway with a ladder to the climb from the pit of extreme poverty. So I don't speak that hyperbolically. I speak that from a firsthand knowledge. I'm in Africa 3-4 times a year. I was just here 3.5-4 weeks ago, and I can tell you for sure that you're literally saving a life by keeping a kid in the classroom. The boys become street boys. They get involved in petty theft, other crimes, and they eventually find their ways, and even in the poor communities, find their ways to drugs and alcohol. And it's a horrible life that the kids outside that can't get to our school. And we need more kids in our school. Don't get me wrong. I could talk about the needs of sponsorship and sponsoring a kid, get a kid off the street. I could tell you about that, but I want to focus on the 175. I got to get the fifth grade classroom stocked up, ready to go. 30 people. And remember, fifth grade is about the age that those young ladies start to recognize, wow, this could have been very different for me. They're starting to mature. They're starting to grow up. They're starting to go, my friends are out there on the street. My friend is she's 13. She got pregnant. All this stuff is happening, but these people are being saved from the pain and the mess of that life. And it's through the desk and through the sponsorship. So we appreciate it. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. And if you do that, make that donation. We'd appreciate it. And feel free to make a donation of multiples. We always do appreciate it. All right, I've got another interesting story I want to get to, a couple of news stories coming up on the program. We should do a whole segment next year on weird baby names. I've got this story. Everyone's been giving their kids, the same old names for years. You have, big names that are so popular for many years. Liam, Emma, Noah. Those are big popular names that kind of go through generations. Olivia is one of those. A woman shared in a text online that her older cousin has told her that she has settled on a baby name, and the baby's name is pronounced Vasilinia. Let me say that again. The baby's name is pronounced Vasilinia. The mother's fallback was Serena, but she said Vasilinia sounded more elegant. So she's being named, instead of being Vasilinia, which of course does sound a lot like Vaseline, and it's spelled very similar, but it's actually Vasilinia. We ought to do a show on the weirdest baby names you've ever heard of and how it is that parents justify giving their kid and burdening their kid with such crazy names. Vasilinia is the name of that child. We'll dive into that topic sometime soon. All right, I'm going to come back to this lead story. What do you think this all means? And is this a step in the right direction for President Trump? President Trump all week the last week and a half has been very belligerent in saying that the Jeffrey Epstein files are a hoax. There's nothing to see here. The case is closed, and everybody just leave the damn thing alone. Well, there's been pressure, and a lot of that pressure has been coming from Republicans and people that are allies to President Trump, and saying General Flynn's written letters. A lot of members of Congress say we got to do something. We campaign. The Epstein story's not going to die. And so, Mr. President, you're going to have to just release the Kraken, if you will. We'll use that phrase. This is the truth that went up overnight while we were sleeping. Based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam perpetrated by the government, the Democrats, should end right now. So he says it's a scam. I'm not sure what part of it is a scam. There are court files, there are grand jury testimony. That's not a scam. So if he's saying the scam is that there was blackmail, well, fine. We'll find out that there was no blackmail. But we do know there was a file. We do know that there was trafficking because Ghislaine, whatever her name is, Maxwell's in jail because of trafficking. We do know that Prince Andrew was on the recipient end of inbound traffic. And so we know there was trafficking, so I'm not sure exactly why he's saying it's a scam, but I do know this tells me a couple of things, and I want you to just study what he's saying here. He says, I've asked Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. So I want to throw this out there, and by the way, Pam Bondi did reply. This is her reply on Truth Social. President Trump, we are ready to move the court tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcripts. So here's a question. If they know there has to be court approval, which we've learned this week that the court controls a lot of these documents, they're not sitting in a closet. So what has been this dog and pony show by Pam Bondi's Attorney General administration? If they don't have the documents and they knew the court had to approve them, what was this whole shenanigans dog and pony show in which Pam Bondi brought all these influencers and bloggers up to the White House and the offices and handed them binders and said, you've got the Epstein files, go forth and report. And no one reported because was it blank pages in there? I mean, that was really a dog and pony show. So if the things that are pertinent have to be released by a judge and grand jury transcripts have to be unsealed, then what was the dog and pony? I think this just raises some more questions. I think it's their step in the right direction. It brings about a little bit of sense of clarity. I think maybe a special prosecutor, but then again, I hear the cry against special prosecutors that nothing ever seems to become of them. No one ever gets held accountable, and I understand that argument as well. But it does bring up this question with this Epstein story so we have to go to the courts and get these files released. Can someone tell me what this dog and pony show was that was happening with all these binders being handed out and Pam Bondi saying she had it on her desk? Well, what did you have on your desk versus what did you have to go to the court to get released? It just brings some questions up about the whole handling of this PR disaster, I believe, for the Trump administration and for Pam Bondi. Jimmy, Chad, and Delilah. Those are great names. Well, Delilah is actually her real name, too. At first, I thought it was her dancing name. And it is. She goes by Delilah. I think, but usually I told her if she's going to have a more successful dancing career, she needs to become a German car. She needs to become a Mercedes or a Porsche, even an Audi. She could become Audi. Yeah, Delilah. I asked her if it was her dancing name because she showed up when I first brought Delilah onto the team of the Lakey Entertainment Towers back when we were building the towers, loud and strong in the music business. I said, is that your dancing name? She says, I don't dance. And I said, well, you're dressed like a hooer. So she still dresses like the ways it would shock her mother sometimes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you here. Hopefully somebody help me understand that. What was this dog and pony show? Pam Bondi handing out these binders full of something, and these bloggers all self-important. I think Liz Wheeler was one of them. I need to reach out to Liz and see what was in her binder. But that was supposedly it. But now we find out, we're going to release it, but we got to go to the courts and they have to release it. Well, you pretended as if you had the ability to just hand this stuff out like candy at Halloween from the front door. That's what they pretended. So something just doesn't connect, and I think it's a PR nightmare. And Pam Bondi is baffling to me in this. And again, I don't know if we'll get a straight answer. I don't know if we'll know the answer. Again, the government lied to us 60 years about JFK. They're still trying to cover some of that crap up. So they're still lying about Butler, Pennsylvania, and what they know and don't know, and who's investigating and who's responsible. Does anybody know who's in charge of that? I mean, when the only report we've had about Butler, Pennsylvania over a year ago is from the Government Accounting Office. So the only report that's been issued about Butler, Pennsylvania is a bunch of pencil pushers in the accounting office. All right, great. I hope they have a pocket protector and a calculator with them while they their protractor. It makes no sense, and I think this is the same thing. It makes no sense. All of the dog and pony show that Pam Bondi was doing, handing out these binders, and now they say we're going to release it, but we got to go to the courts and get their permission. I don't understand. Why can't someone just explain it and tell us exactly what it is that are those, what exactly those names are, that those things are, and the difference between going to the court. Pam Bondi had something on her desk. Now it's not on her desk. All right. Anybody hear this? Keep your president in your prayers. President Donald J. Trump announced a health issue yesterday. Some folks had noticed over the weekend, these cameras had zoomed in and seen that he had some bruising on his hand. And as they zoomed in closer, it looked like he had tried to put some cover up or some makeup on a bruise on the hand. And they put the makeup on that thing. And then they also noticed, so he was sitting on the stage, that his ankles were swollen up. Now, any of you who have ever traveled internationally know that you can get swollen ankles just from sitting in a position that long. The pressure and all that stuff happens. And his ankles look like he had been on a long international flight. Well, they announced yesterday that he is suffering from what they say is really nothing serious. It's something that a lot of people, especially above the age of 70, especially those that don't sit much and those that stand a lot, especially wearing dress shoes, probably not the best support out there that happens. After the photos of makeup on his hand, they say that he has, and it's a medical term, they did a comprehensive evaluation and examination, and there's no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or any arterial disease. They say the bruising on this hand is due to his aspirin regimen, which his cardiologist has him on, as a lot of people are on, and the frequent handshakes and his frail skin make it a little bit. There's also a diagnosis for the ankles. It's just basically the blood's not flowing out of there as much. And the way to solve that is to not stand as much and to occasionally put your feet up. And of course, Donald J. Trump's not going to put his feet up. There's a photo here at Fox News of sitting with other world leaders, and they have their suits on, but they have comfortable shoes on, like tennis shoes sometimes. And as you do in media, when you're at an event, waist up, you're all dressed up, but below you're trying to be comfortable. And they say it's a common condition. A vascular and endovascular surgeon at the Cardiovascular Care Group in Westfield, New Jersey, commented and said leg swelling is a common condition, particularly among older adults. As a practicing vascular surgeon, I see patients for this issue more frequently than almost any other complaint. They say it's well known as a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen to take the aspirin, and he remains in excellent health. So I just found it refreshing that the media yesterday, without much hoopla at all, got a full briefing on the president's health. Unlike the liars that were in the last administration that did everything they can to not tell you the truth about what is happening with the president. They lied about his cognitive ability. They lied about his ability to stand up, falling down the stairs at the Air Force Academy, and they just never gave out a briefing. And suddenly, I think, they sorry, I'm reading a comment that just came across my phone. Anyway, if you get the idea, I feel like Joe Biden. I just lost my train of thought because I got 3 messages. Probably, I don't know why my phone is even on here. Let's put the phone over there. All right, good to have you here on the program. We're waiting the arrival of Jeff Hayes. Excuse me, I'm all Twitter pated here. I got 3 messages going on. I'm waiting the arrival of Doug Giles. Not sure Doug Giles is going to be with us today because Doug is, I think, out of town on vacation. But if anybody can explain to me and give me your take on the truth that Donald Trump has posted out that he wants the grand jury's files to be released, approved by the court. Somebody tell me what this is all about, because I still want to know what it was that Pam Bondi thought she had on her desk that she didn't have on her desk, and what it is that she was going to release that she thought she had, but now we find out they can release something, but it's got to be approved by the court. A lot of this is just weird. And again, I want it to be out there. I think it should be out there. I think we deserve it to be out there. But I just don't like all of this rope-a-dope and smoke and mirrors, because I still think it'd be, Pam, you thought you had something on your desk that you had the authority to release. That's something you didn't release. Now you're saying you can release something, but it's got to go through court approval. What has to go through court approval, and what are you in charge of, Pam? Because you were pretending the files were all on your desk and you're going to sort through them and dole them out. And now we're finding out you didn't have that authority. Is that what we're hearing? I'm just thinking this was a blunder by the Trump administration, even Pam Bondi, and I'm not sure where it came from, but we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. All right, good to have you here. Our theme songs question of the day. Theme song question of the day is, what theme songs on television shows do you watch and never, ever miss? And I have to say, All in the Family is one that Jeff just mentioned, and I think that's a great one. The singing, the docile, the piano playing of the singing tones of Edith Bunker, fantastic theme song there. Now, I could skip it. Oh, you know another one? Frasier. That's a wild theme song. It's toss salad and scrambled eggs. Anytime you have that line in a song, that's a good one. Frasier's a good theme song. It's not as catchy as the Jeffersons or Gilligan's Island, the Brady Bunch, or it's not Waylon Jennings, but it's a good theme song. Your favorite theme songs that when they come on, you will never, ever, ever, ever skip them. That would be, would love to hear your thoughts on that. On that topic, your favorite theme songs out there. All right, good to have you here on Gray Shirt Friday. I got the Stephen Colbert thing. Again, we're giving Doug Giles a little bit more time to arrive if he's going to make it. I'm having a feeling he's not, because he has not messaged this morning. He usually gives a big thumbs up. The Democrats hear that Stephen Colbert gets fired, and they immediately start speculating as to the reason. And they immediately say, oh, it must be political. He must have ticked off Donald Trump, and CBS has canceled the Stephen Colbert show. And it's Elizabeth Warren and some jackass Democrats in Washington that are coming to Stephen Colbert's defense, and they're saying, you can't fire them. How is it that Joy Reid gets fired from like MSNBC, and she says, they fired me because they're racist? Stephen Colbert gets fired, and they say they fired him because he doesn't like Trump. Have you people don't know how do these people jackasses don't know how the real world works? Sometimes you get fired just for the sake of getting fired. Sometimes you get fired because your show sucks. Sometimes you get fired because people can't sell your show. Sometimes you get fired because you have 300 people on your staff and it's way too bloated of an expense, and there's no way to really trim it and just cut it off, lop it off at the head. Senator Adam Schiff of California and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, two loony bin nuts in the Senate, said the public deserves to know whether the CBS decision was politically motivated. Adam Schiff said, just finished taping with Stephen Colbert, who announced his show is canceled. If Paramount and CBS ended the late show for political reasons, the public deserves to know and knows better. Does anybody give a rat's ass what Adam Schiff thinks about anything? Is there anybody at CBS or Paramount that thinks, oh boy, Adam Schiff has spoken, we better straighten up and fly right? Let me tell you something. I was told early on, and I've worked for all the major radio companies. I worked for iHeart. I've worked for the Cumulus. I've worked for the Salem. I've had shows on all of those. Citadel, back when they were a thing, I worked for them as well. I've done all the big boys, and I was with 10 years with iHeart, which is, I guess, the biggest of the big boys. And I was told early on, Lakey, we don't, and never once, I don't ever recall there was ever a time they really tried to censor me. One time, I could tell you, if we go back in radio stories, I had a boss that asked me, could you delay that story for one day? I know you have a guest on, because we're about to sign they're about to advertise and then do the story the next day, but let me get extended. And I did. It was not an earth-breaking story. It's just something I had found interesting. And I decided to do that story a day later because it wasn't a life or death, but I wanted the sales team to get the win on that thing. And it wasn't a negative story. It was just, I just lay off that one. But I wasn't forced to do that. I really never was forced to mitigate a topic or dial down the topic out there. But I was told early on in my days at iHeart, and this is true at all the stations, Lakey, there's two things you're judged on: ratings and revenue. And my ratings were always good. My revenues were always probably the best in the clusters that we had. Ultimately, the ratings and revenue were not high enough to cover when they wanted zero cost on a station. Because a lot of times over the 10 years, a lot of these stations have lost their local appeal. The people you think are your local DJs are actually some guy, what they call voice tracking from Ohio, pretending that he's the DJ in Phoenix for that afternoon. And he just simply has a fax going, hey, down to the Fox Theater today is going to be this. And as if he's ever been there. He's never been to Phoenix in his life. That's how radios run across America. Syndication became king. You pay a guy like me to be a morning show guy for 10 years. And there's cost related. There's cost to me. There's cost to producers. There's cost of all the things that happen on those shows. And then you go, we could stick a syndicated product, and we may lose some local advertisers on there, but the national dollars come in, and hey, we don't have the headache of having someone around there. And I was the last guy in the iHeart building that had a local live show, full-time live guy. I was the last full-time guy. Everybody else on all the other stations were either nationally syndicated, music, rock, country, didn't matter, or they were either nationally syndicated or they were voice-tracked shows, meaning they weren't real full-time DJs. They just went in and recorded a week or 2 weeks with their shows at one time, and they freshened it up daily if they needed, but it's very generic. I was the last. There were 12 stations in our building. I was the last live dude. I knew my time was coming. Probably 4 years ago, because one by one of my country music cohorts across the hall, they left and they were never replaced because they couldn't afford to replace them. That's Scott and Sadie on the big country. They headed out the door, and I was the last guy there. Marcus was a guy that did some voice tracking on the weekend, but he works law enforcement. That's his full-time job. I mean, it was just I knew the time was coming. So for Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren to come out there and go, was this political? Was this political? No, it's called economics, you jackasses. CBS is looking at it, trying to make themselves more valuable so they can get bought up by some other company. And they're looking at a bloated show that doesn't bring in enough revenue to cover the cost of it when you have 300 staff members helping to run a show, writers, etc. And you're at a time where more and more people are no longer watching live television because you used to watch the evening comedy shows because of what happened. Evening comedy shows happened after you watch your live local news, and then you'd stay up to watch a Johnny Carson or Dave Letterman. You'd stay up to watch their monologues and see what they had to say, right? That's kind of how the world worked. Well, people aren't doing that. Rather than watching network television at night, they're watching Netflix or Amazon. They're watching Apple TV. They're binge watching their own shows, and they're not going to get hooked into that late night show. Ratings go down. When ratings go down, revenue goes down. And it's just amazing that somebody on the left gets fired, and Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren pop a squat and a baby and say, oh my God, I can't believe it must be political. No, it must be maybe because it's a bad show, maybe because the ratings suck, maybe because it costs too much money. But Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren realized that one of their mouthpieces is now dead, and one of the persons that would be a propagandist for them is now no longer going to have a show. And that's got to hurt Elizabeth Warren, because not everybody will let her on the show to send up smoke signals to the world and have a peace pipe. So, Elizabeth, sorry, CBS has canceled the Colbert show, and they say it's 3 days after he called out his parent company for a settlement with Trump. Well, first of all, not very wise. If you're working for a company and they're paying your bill, you don't necessarily call them out publicly. That's a dumbass move, no matter who you are. You could work for the Lakey Entertainment Towers, and your Delilah go out and hold a press conference about how you don't like how I'm handling the business, and Delilah's going to go back to her dancing days because I'm not going to put up with that crap. So for Elizabeth Warren to be so stupid and idiotic that think that you can go out there and slam your bosses and slam your company for business decisions they make, it's not real good look on Stephen Colbert, and he was dumb to do it. But I really think ultimately Stephen Colbert has no one to blame for himself, because he gave up the position of a late night comic for a late night activist, and people just don't want to have that kind of activism shoved down their throat when they just want to get together and have a good giggle here and there. All right, glad to have all of you here on the show. Barney Miller has been brought up as a theme song that you can't miss. The Greatest American Hero. That's actually on the list that they gave me of great theme songs. Dallas is another one you can recognize. Some of those don't have lyrics. You could do the lyric ones, the ones with words and the ones without words. Jeff says, any chance Pam Blondie refused a romance novel for the Epstein list? I don't know. Makes sense why you stopped referring to the FM side of the hallway. No, there was no one there. When I got to, I'll just give you a little behind the scenes. When I got to the iHeart Kingdom, and I was there over 10 years, which is a really long time for a guy in if you're not nationally syndicated and you're on a low budget state, that's a long time. I really, honest to God, was surprised they hired me. I was surprised I lasted every year. It's like, another year? We're going to do this again? Every time they gave me a contract renewal. And as a matter of fact, I had a contract renewal on my desk. And it was sitting on my desk, and I was ready to rock and roll. We were negotiating, and I was not getting anywhere. They weren't getting anywhere. But then they cut everybody. I think it was Joe Pags had just signed his on WOAI in San Antonio. He had just signed his contract renewal, and they cut him from WOAI. Now, he still had his syndicated show, which was not through Premiere, which iHeart owns. It was a different syndication company. So you still hear Joe Pags on the radio, perhaps where you're at, but he's no longer with iHeart. He got a poop can the same day I did. But just because you had a renewal, the renewal is always there's a buyout. And so we all got bought out basically of our contracts, and I don't know what his was, but nevertheless, there was nobody left. There was a Big Rob was across the hall. Scott and Sadie were across the hall. Doc was doing classic rock. When I first started there 10 years ago, all of the major signals, there were 12 signals in that building for Colorado and even up into Wyoming, and they were all in that building, operational in that building. And there's a 2-story building. Downstairs was pretty full. Upstairs was full. There. And it was a mess. By the time COVID ended, the downstairs had been re-let out as a car dealership. Everybody was upstairs. The sales pit, which used to be half of the downstairs, was a small little conference room that had been knocked out of wall upstairs. The signs were on the wall. They got rid of the classic rock DJs. They didn't have they were doing syndicated on the FM station, the rock pop station, but live in the afternoon. Everybody was gone. I mean, literally, it was crickets. And that's one of the reasons that for a period of time when I had a bat crap crazy producer that I had advised them not to necessarily hire, because I felt as if we were not given the full truth about political opinions during a hiring process. When I said, "Are you political?" No, they hired the guy anyway, but that's fine. But there's a reason I would stay out of the building. I wouldn't go in the building for a while. I didn't publicize this, but I said, I'm not going to the building. They said, you need to be in the building. I said, I'm not going to the building. This guy has sent threatening messages to me, and I'm not going to put up with this stuff. So, yeah, so that truly happened. And one of the reasons I felt that way is because I was the only guy in the building. And so what I had was somebody that I thought was kind of a volatile, hostile thing going on here. And there was nobody else in the hallway except me and him. 4:35, 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to think that. All right. Jeff says, I think Hooters is using the place for parking now. The old station, the iHeart Kingdom, was next to the Hooters. Yeah. I only went to that Hooters once. We had a meeting there once. I don't know what for. It didn't matter. That the food at Hooters was not all that exciting. Dennis says, I started listening to you, Jimmy, from day one of your show when we lived in Fort Collins, right before the great Rushmo. Yep, right before Rush Limbaugh. That was the greatest honor of time, being able to be on right before Rush Limbaugh. So anyway, I point all that out to say, Stephen Colbert, suck it up, Buttercup. Stephen Colbert, knock it off, Buttercup. Elizabeth Warren, Adam Schiff, knock it off. Sometimes in media, people get fired. You can listen back to the days old Rushmo. You can listen to Sean Hannity stories. I can tell you stories about being fired, and then they say, well, you weren't fired, you were laid off. But yeah, it happens, and these stations are incredibly, I got great friends and had a great experience in my 10 years, but it was there was a lot of just mismanagement that happened because they just didn't really care. All the talk radio guys got canned, even the people that programmed it. And so the people that were programming our station, quote, my bosses, didn't know a damn thing about talk radio, didn't care about talk radio. Most of them were probably either apolitical or not political. They were hiring people that were working to sabotage programming. So it's a mess. Anyway, good to have all of you here. Happy days, right? I say all that as a guy who knows about being fired. And Stephen, it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. I'm sure if I can survive getting my ass kicked to the curb by the iHeart Kingdom, I'm sure the buyout on your contract is a heck of a lot better than the buyout was on my contract. And I'm sure you're going to be fine. Okay, Stephen? If not, call Elizabeth Warren and see if you can borrow, I don't know, maybe she can go on hunt with you or something out on the reservation, wherever the Pocahontas does that. Jimmy, it was a good time starting you with and ending with Rush. Missed those days, but glad you have hung in there. Yeah, Dennis, I'm like a cockroach that can't get rid of me. Arloa says, yes, we discovered you by tuning in early for Rush. Then we continue to listen earlier and earlier, and then had more of you. And a lot of people, they would tune into that station and find Rush, but they get there early. And that guy doesn't suck as bad as they could suck. And yeah, appreciate it. I love you. Three's Company. There's a song. All right, let me read some more comments and we get out of here to the meme roulette. Everyone in Colorado needs to fill out Jared Polis' survey about his legacy bridge to nowhere. Let him know it's as worthless as he is. All right, everybody search that up. Evidently, Jared Polis in Colorado wants to do that bridge across Colfax, across the street. I think that's where he wants to put it, so you don't have to stumble across the human excrement that's on the streets of Denver around the state capitol. Well, guess what? You're just going to have them pooping at a higher elevation. All the homeless people are going to be crapping and pooping and doing drugs and heroin and snorting crap and all the crap that they do. They're going to be doing it on the bridge as opposed to under the bridge. So anyway, I guess there's a survey out there. Feel free. Ray says BJ and the Bear. I remember BJ and the Bear now that you say it, but I don't remember the theme song. I don't remember the theme song. I'm going to be a theme song binge watching on YouTube today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you one more time. I'd like to report victory to you here today. By the end of the day, I'd like to report victory, and I can if all of us work together. I'm asking for 30 people that will step up and give $175 one time to charity. Scrolling across the bottom of the screen are just part of the people that have helped us this week. Some with one desk, some with half a desk, some with parts of a desk, some with multiple desks. And they're building out our 5th grade classroom every year at Legacy Christian Academy in Rwanda. We add another class level, and we're adding a 5th grade class in this year. Next year, we'll add a 6th grade class. Now, we want to double up and have more 5th grade and 6th grades down the road, but we're doing one class at a time, slow and smart. Slow and steady wins the race, I'm told. And this is what the classroom looks like. These are great desks, and it is literally it's the whole classroom. There's 30 children in every classroom. This is about a 2nd grade classroom, 1st grade classroom, singing to me. It's a typical classroom. That's the building we built, phase 1 of Legacy Christian Academy. There's the things on the wall and the desk you can see. All the school supplies, their uniforms are paid for by sponsors if they have a sponsor. But I tell you this, and I want you to just look at that classroom and recognize what I said as you think about donating today. And I recognize what happens. A lot of people hang up with the show and they keep getting on their mind, and then they come back later and they donate. So I'm not going to count all of the donations that have come in through the show, because I know they'll come in throughout the day, or people listen to the podcast later in the day. But listen, if you're looking at it, that desk right there, and those kids, by the time they get 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, the higher they go, the more you realize how you're saving them from a large bit of potential. By 5th, 6th, 7th grade, those are young ladies, especially in our classrooms, that recognize that their peers that aren't attending our school, unfortunately, because we don't have enough sponsors, their peers are living lives of prostitution. Their peers are doing some nasty things and bad things and horrible things just to survive. The boys are learning petty theft. The girls are learning, boys are learning how to drugs and alcohol. I mean, it's really happening because it's a very impoverished area, probably one of the most impoverished areas you'll ever be in your life. And yet we have totally transformed it. And so I have to say, if you can help us with $175, you're going to build those desks. They're hand-built. They help the local economy. We have this craftsman that does them all, metal and wood, and they're just beautiful desks. You'd want these desks in your home. They're nice. We all the papers and stuff, all the drawings, and so everything we do, we stock that whole classroom, and they are very sweet classrooms. Matter of fact, people in Africa come and see our school campus and go, wow, this looks like American. It's built top-notch. It could be fancier, but we stayed within a budget, but it's a well-done school. It has electricity, has running water, flushing toilets. I mean, this is unheard of. We're the only electrified building. That classroom right there, you can't see it, has electricity in it. We're the only electrified building for many, many miles around. That's what we do. So if you can help us out, $175, 30 people to do that, or 60 people at half that, you get the idea. Any variation of that, do it. You can write desk on there, and we would love to have you participate in that. They've got to stock that classroom up. We're halfway there. And again, riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org. Another thing, while you're thinking about our charity work, I'll talk about our golf tournament here in just a second. I'll name off some of our sponsors that are lining up, but I also want to remind you about Sherry Cree, great sponsor of this show. Listen, if you've been considering a real estate transaction, maybe you want to be like Jeff Hayes and get the heck out of the state and you're ready to sell your home in Colorado, you need to reach out to Sherry, find out the best way to do that, the best pricing, the best staging, the best everything, get top dollar for that home and also have a great experience. Maybe you just want to upsize, downsize to get in a new school district. Maybe you figured out you live next to a Democrat, or maybe you live next to Trenday or Rockaway and you want to change neighborhoods because they've gone crazy. Well, homeswithsherry.com. Maybe you just want a better school district. Maybe it's time to downsize. Maybe you've added a new child. You get the idea. Whatever the case may be, homeswithsherry.com. homeswithsherry.com. She approaches this thing that she wants to be able to become your realtor for life. So she wants to do everything she can to make it such a fantastic experience and hopefully profitable experience that the next time you decide to do something with real estate, you say, we got to call Sherry. When the kids say, hey, I want to buy a condo, your kid's going off to college, we got to buy a rental property. Why don't I live there? Homeswithsherry.com. She has a referral service as well. So if you're moving, need to do something outside of an area that she has a lot of knowledge in, she will find that person for you and she will refer that. That's just a service she offers as well. Homeswithsherry.com. That classroom that you just saw on the screen that I put up there a moment ago, Sherry has actually been in that classroom. Sherry was there for our dedication ribbon cutting of this building a few years ago. She was in Africa with us. Her and her husband have been big supporters of Rivers Promise through the years. Homeswithsherry.com. Go there. She's been in that classroom, and her and her husband actually donated a desk for our 5th grade classroom. I see them on the list scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Homeswithsherry.com. And by the way, she takes a portion of her commission on every transaction. She will donate it to a charity of your choice because that's just the kind of good person she is. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday. I want you to remember, if you want to contact us, info@jimmylakey.com. More and more of you have been sending memes and suggestions. We appreciate you. That's a great way to contact us. Info@jimmylakey.com. And also, my friends, if you'd like to participate in the program by an advertising, feel free. Info@jimmylakey.com. We've got room for advertising in any region, any area, and we can custom make something for you to make it really, hopefully beneficial to you, your business, and your brand. Let's see, unfiltered and overcaffeinated. That's what my title is today. Unfiltered, unleashed. Some people say it should be Lakey unhinged, not Lakey unleashed. I disagree. Scott says, Candace and I were there as well. It is awesome. That's right. Scott and Candace, they are from Wyoming. They've been over to Africa dozens of times. The first time was with me, then they've gone on their own for some of their own projects. Yeah, they were there for the ribbon cutting as well. If you go back to our ribbon, we ought to do that. We ought to pull out the ribbon cutting photo of the group, and we can highlight people that are in the audience that were there. Historian John P. Cole was at the ribbon cutting, wasn't he? He was on that trip, right? Yeah, so it's a fun trip. If you ever want to go to Africa with us, feel free to let us know. We charge less. We're not an official tour company, but we do take groups over there to see our work, and then we can send you out to the Wild Blue Yonder and do a lot of great things. And if you ever have a bucket list trip to Africa, you want to do one of those African safaris and see the animals. We don't do hunting safaris. That's South Africa, but we will do a safari, a photo safari like they do in Kenya. We'll do them in Rwanda. We can hook all that up. So let us know if you ever want to travel with us. Info@Jimmy Lakey. I'll get you connected with Delilah in the travel department. Is that what department you're in? I don't know. Anyways, we'll get you all connected and get you over there. Riverspromise.com to make the donation. Info@JimmyLakey.com. Also is a way to contact us. Travel with us sometime. Ladies and gentlemen, as I hold this up on a Friday, it's time to wrap up the conclusion of the show by doing the meme roulette, the stolen meme section of the show. Ready? Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. The job of the mainstream media today is to make you think that the views of 10% of the country are actually the views of 80% of the country. It's like Elizabeth Warren and Adam Schiff commenting on Stephen Colbert's hiring. 80% of the country doesn't give a rat's patootie, and 90% of the country didn't even watch the dang show. But hey, Elizabeth Warren thinks everybody lives in her bubble. Round and round the globe we go, or on her reservation. Elizabeth Warren thinks everyone lives in her teepee. Anybody remember this? Back when your couch included a car. Anybody remember those posh interiors? And those posh interiors now, you look at it and go, man, that thing had to get really dirty, but it never seemed dirty. It's kind of like the era that I kind of grew up in. I kind of remember, but it went away quickly, and I'm glad. Carpet in the bathroom. Carpet around the toilet. And remember when you used to wrap your toilet? My grandmother, I remember earliest memories used to do that. They wrapped their toilets up in all this yarn and stuff, all these pads and stuff. You think back how gross that was. Nasty, nasty. Hey, Jimmy, a chat room says on YouTube, did you get a chance to eat at the Cotton Patch? Ray, I did not, but I found out there's several cotton patches. Cotton patch is kind of a big deal in Texas. So next time I'm down there, which will probably be a couple more weeks, I'm going to eat at the Cotton Patch, and there's several locations near me. Thank you for the restaurant suggestions. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh, God, a bunch of small right. Oh, the Epstein files. We have an Epstein files joke. In the bathroom, Epstein files. Mar-a-Lago bathroom today. Donald Trump's not real happy about these Epstein files. He's sick of them. He's tired of hearing about them. And so, hey, if you're out of toilet paper, bring the Epstein files over, Pamela. We don't like Charmin. We like Epstein. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows, my friends. Socialists say I should stop confusing socialism with communism. I say socialists should stop confusing my money with their money. That's better advice. Let me read it again for those who are playing the home game. Socialists say I should stop confusing socialism with communism. Well, I say that socialists should stop confusing my money with their money. Point well taken. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Terrifying study reveals, Babylon Bee says there are still people getting vaccinated for COVID. I saw a COVID advertisement the other day. Can you believe it? If it's anybody out there, you probably wouldn't want to confess this out in polite company. Anybody out there still getting the COVID vaccine? After all the stuff we know about it, after all the shenanigans we've heard about, after all the paddles, all that, yeah, it's bizarre. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, like bulls on teats on a bull, we have milk the meme machine try, and there's nothing producing out of this meme teat. And meme teat? Can we say meme teat on the show? I don't know. Ladies, there's nothing else is being produced here, but I'm not over caffeinated. I still got some coffee left in the cup. Hey, can I remind you again? I will say this one more time from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Producer Chad and I were just talking that we have not this need of this desk. I have not emailed our Rivers Promise list. I have not put it up on social media for Rivers Promise. I've basically come to you, this little radio audience that has followed over, and a lot of new people out on all the platforms. And again, by the end of the day, you may see a couple of dozen here, a couple of dozen, depending on what platform you're watching it on. But by the end of the day, by the time we count the watches, then downloads that happen on the podcast later, thousands, hundreds, thousands of people listen, hundreds or thousands, they listen to the show every week and every day. So a lot of folks under the sound of my dulcet tones, you never see in the chat room. There's just a lot of folks listening, watching, and we appreciate you. And we have not gone to our traditional donor list on this $175 30. We've only done it here exclusively. Now, next week, about midweek, I'll probably announce it to the rest of our donor base to get us over the top. But I don't want to do that. What I want to do is hit the regular people on our email list up with some other projects we need to do. I'd like this to be our project together, the Lakey Unleashed Streamcast. And so far, all the donations that have come in for these desks have been through this program. And as an upstart program, some of you are just getting to know me, some of you have known me for years, and some of you have contributed through the years, and I appreciate that. But would you contemplate that donation? And maybe Monday we can come back and report. Maybe you've already given. You want to give again, feel free to do so. I was looking for 30 people to give $175 for that classroom, and I appreciate it. So far, all of the response we've had, which is just mind-blowing in a sense, because this is kind of a new format for us. It's new for a lot of you. A lot of you say, oh, you're still on the radio. Well, you've kind of figured out that you can take me with you anywhere, and we're glad to have you. But this is our project. This is the Lakey Unleashed broadcast, podcast, streamcast project that we've worked on, and we've done quite well. I'd like to do better. I'd like to get about 14, 16, some more desks in here, 175. We're over half. I don't know how far over half now, but I'd like to get us there. Help us out over the weekend. Talk to your spouse, talk to your significant other, talk to your maker, and see if it's something that, and by the way, if you click off this show and you can't quit thinking about the desk or those kids sitting at that desk or that girl that would be into a life of some really bad stuff if it weren't for Legacy Christian Academy and her work there, that could be the nudging in your heart to make a donation. All right, riverspromise.org. Our golf tournament is also up there. I want to thank, I believe, Lehman Lewis Financial Group is going to be sponsoring our big hole hecklers. We have Comics on the Green. We've got Jay Ratliff sponsoring some holes. If you'd like to sponsor and or register, Steve Laffey, by the way, just sponsored a hole on behalf of himself and his family and SteveLaffey.com. You remember Steve? Steve just sponsored a hole last night and got that donation, saw that last evening. So riverspromise.com, you'll see the events page and go there and you can sponsor and or sign up for our golf tournament. I appreciate it indeed. All right, Jeff says the COVID vaccine, coffee moment. Yeah, unbelievable. People still get that thing. It's hard to believe, isn't it? It really is hard. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you all being a part of the program. I really, really do. It's been a great week. Lots of good numbers out there. Don't forget Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, all the podcast platforms. Go download and listen to this show. Just type in Jimmy Lakey Unleashed. Like it, subscribe to it. That helps the numbers as well. To all of you listening, not live to this afternoon, I'm waiting to hear from you today, this weekend. Riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org. 175. Can you help us build some desks for a great classroom? Until we meet again Monday morning, follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. If you're on the X, it's just my name. Instagram's just my name. I am Jimmy Lakey, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.